Ready?
Ready.
3, 2, 1.
This is The Jungle, an up-close, unvarnished look inside leadership and business strategy. We wade into the real-world leader's face and explore what they do to create a path forward, because that's what business is. Wild, exciting.
It's the jungle.
Derek, welcome back to The Jungle. It sounded like you were just yelling right there.
I had to open the window and scream out the window because my kids are climbing a tree and they're too young to do that.
How real is this? How real is this time? So for all the listeners out there, one great thing about Derek, amongst his many qualities, is he has children the same age and gender as my children. So they end up doing a lot together, having fun together. But is this time not crazy to have little kids?
It is crazy. So one, my kids miss your kids. Let's just throw that out there.
Yep.
They miss Mackenzie and Landon. It's crazy. My kids have Zoom calls now. What is that? My kids have Zoom calls with their classes. So my kids actually know how to use Zoom. They know how to mute it, unmute it. They have full class meets, and I think it's on my schedule. So I've got to get off so they can get on. It's a little bit nutty right now with kids. I'll tell you that. God bless teachers. My wife's a teacher. Holy cow. Not quite a full understanding until you see what they do every day.
It is an amazing time to be balancing. I mean, we're very fortunate to be able to be working and not be furloughed or laid off. At the same time, it's super challenging with kids running around and climbing in trees and trying to educate them and balance work. And it's going to be an interesting time if this thing lasts, let me tell you.
It is, because we have such big plans for the center, and we're trying to push those all through, not seeing each other, trying to do everything over Zoom. And you get half a day, 3/4 of a day, because you got kids and family, which is great. It's great to spend some time with the family and slow down a bit, but we've got some big initiatives that we're going after. So
well, it's tough. We did have a great conversation though today with John Green. So John has been a great supporter of our program. We actually did two consulting projects with our leadership and business strategy students in the Hayworth College of Business with Revolution Farms, one of John's companies. They're an indoor ag company based in Grand Rapids. So John's been a great supporter of our program, provided amazing opportunities for our students, really generous with his time. So John has a really impressive resume. He started off in commercial real estate, but he really made a big mark as executive chairman at Founders Brewing for 13 years and really took them into the upper echelon of craft brewing. So an amazing impact that he's made at that organization. He's right now at the confluence of finance, craft beverage, ag tech, commercial real estate, urban development. He has 3 hats that he wears right now. He is chairman and CEO of Revolution Farms. He is chairman of Cirkul and chairman of Odyssey. And in his abundant free time, if you can imagine, he's also on the board of the Island School in the Bahamas and board member of Grand Rapids Whitewater. So a really impressive guy, really innovative, touching a lot of different industries. So it's a really interesting conversation. What were the 3 takeaways that you had there, Derek?
So yeah, I don't know how this guy sleeps. We asked him, and he had a good response to that. But really, really doing a lot of impactful stuff. But some really key takeaways that I had. It's a new world. I thought that was interesting. If you think this is good, or he thinks that it may not quite snap back to normal, it's going to be a new normal or something different on the other side of this. So he's training or helping all of his younger CEOs walk through that. They may have some misunderstandings in his view of what it'll be like on the other side of the virus, which brings me to his 2 key points with dealing with that is protect your cash at all costs right now. They did some tactical things in there if you listen, but treat every dollar like it's worth 3 right now. I thought that was a pretty good advice. And then following off of that one, my last point is get super proactive with the banks. He learned from previous life that, you don't want to hide from banks. You want to get out. They're there to help you solve problems, get in touch with your banks, work with your banks, find solutions, come to them with plans, let them help you build plans, and you'll be better off for it. But 3 good points, Doug. And he had a lot of good stuff. He's such a impressive individual. What'd you have, Doug?
So 3 points I had, one was looking out to the future, seeing this idea around direct ship is really going to be a model that we're going to see much more of. And gosh knows, in this situation when you can't go anywhere, the future is here faster than you think with direct ship. And then also local, as you think about disruptions maybe to the food chain, being able to source locally could be a big trend in the future. Second big point was, how do you use this time to innovate and experiment? And he talked a little bit about how they've taken a portion of their farm at Revolution Farms, growing indoors, to try out some new varieties, some herbs. So taking some opportunities to experiment and learn during this time. And then the final one was really around leadership. Focusing on really empowering your employees and giving them the opportunity to come up with great ideas and to contribute, but holding them accountable, being truthful with your employees about what's really going on, and then being patient, calm, and having a plan. And these are all things that easy to say, difficult to do, but it's important, I think, for leaders to be able to not only have that plan, but encourage their employees to be leaning forward and proactive. So great conversation we had with John, and we hope everyone enjoys the conversation next with John Green. The Jungle is produced by the Center for Principled Leadership and Business Strategy in Western Michigan University's Hayworth College of Business. Our center supports the leadership and business strategy major, conducts large-scale consulting projects, and trains professionals in acquiring and operating small businesses. To learn more, visit wmich.edu/leadership center. John Green, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Do you happen to have a beverage on hand with you, John? I'm assuming it might be Founders. What are you drinking today?
I wish I could tell you that I was drinking an ice cold Founders beer, but I've taken this opportunity to kind of work on my bloated belly, so I'm drinking water today.
Is this the Cirkul that you're drinking out of right now?
I do have a Cirkul. Yes, exactly.
Well, let's cheers to you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Cheers to you.
Cheers. So tell us a little bit about that, what you're holding right there. That's one of your products.
Yeah, Cirkul is a company based out of Tampa, Florida. And it's a business that's about 2.5 years old. Essentially, what it is, if you look at the system here, you take out what's called a sip. It's essentially a pod system. And in this sip is a high concentrate liquid, various flavors, benefits, could be caffeine, could be electrolytes, could be vitamins. You pop it in and twist it, and the bottle itself is filled with water, and allows you to dial up and down the flavor intensity. What's great about this is a direct-to-consumer business where we can ship these to you wherever you are. You get to customize your flavors and what it is you want. We even have a water filter, and it's a really exciting business. It's taken off. We closed our year last year with about 21 million in sales and project to sell about 45 million this year. So it's one of those innovative companies started by a couple very creative co-founders just out of college. They both were Dartmouth grads, and I've been involved for the last 3 years, serve as executive chairman, and really having a lot of fun with the business. It's always a lot of fun when the business is growing exponentially.
That's right. So it's all water dialed in with electrolytes and flavor, no beer.
Beer.
No beer. Any other personal routines that you've modified given this wonderful situation that we're in?
That's a great question. I when most people were drinking to get through the day, I saw it as an opportunity to become a little bit healthier. I really have enjoyed spending more time in a slower paced environment with my family. We've definitely slowed down and have gotten to the point where we just really I think are enjoying the conversation, working on meals together. In fact, the kids have talked about how great it's been to have home cooked meals. I think we all live in this fast-paced environment. We're running off to whether it's a sporting event or business related function or school work, and we don't always eat together. And so we've with all of our kids essentially doing online coursework right now, we've established some new rules that we get together at the end of the day and have dinner together, and you know, that's been really nice. It's been good to slow things down a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you can look at Derek's hair and my hair, where the hair thing is another one of those routines that needs to get updated. I'm trying to go a little bit of the scruff. All the students this semester were all about the mustache. So that's I guess that's one of the things that you do. So let's talk a little bit about you're at a great position to kind of speak to what it's like leading several companies now through this situation. You're in ag there, indoor ag with Revolution Farms. The hydration, water, I don't know what the category would be with Cirkul. You're on Odyssey.
Yeah.
So it's I think a great perspective for listeners to hear how you're leading some startups through this process. Tell us a little bit of before we dive in, what it's been like the last few weeks for you. Like, just walk us into your experience.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, I do. I would say that, you know, I'm involved in a number of different industries, as you just described, and every industry is very different. You know, there's a lot of for those companies that are in high growth mode. You know, typically capital is important to be able to sustain that growth. And, you know, having lived through this before in 2009 and 10, when capital dried up, it became very apparent to me early on that the best advice I could give these businesses is to protect their cash, and in the most extreme way. First of all, to look at your budgets and figure out where you can reduce costs. Second of all, to think about you know, think about things a bit differently. So you're reducing costs, but you know, as we all know, the markets have dried up. Private equity markets. I think if you go out today and talk to private equity, you know, they might be marking your valuation down by 50%. The deals that they're going to fund are deals that are already in their portfolios, or frankly, where they can take advantage of the opportunity with good companies that are starving for cash. So those deals are few and far between. And the advice I've been giving a lot of the CEOs is to, you know, every dollar is really treat it like it's worth three. You've got to protect it. You've got to look at creative ways to continue to grow your business. And sometimes that means exploring maybe some new partnerships, as an example. New partnerships don't always have to bring in capital. A new partnership could be, you know, if you identify, and we have not yet identified this at Odyssey, but Odyssey is a digital media company, and we've reduced the budgets, the headcount, office space, all these things. But we were in fundraising mode, and that has dried up. So there are other media companies that have ample cash, but they would look at Odyssey as an example, as a business that could provide them an audience targeting a unique demographic that is oftentimes difficult to reach, which is the Zoomers, Gen Z audience. You know, we have a significant audience in 15 to 20 million monthly uniques that come to the Odyssey site that has real value. So how can we trade access, exposure to that audience for maybe things like cash that would help us continue to develop our technology so that we don't lose a beat through this period of time?
Are you thinking at these companies? We've talked to several CEOs in the last couple of weeks, and it seemed like a lot of folks are still focused on the short-term, immediate cost reductions, cash flow issues. Have you started to think a little bit outward towards opportunities for innovation? How you're thinking about this in the 3 to 6 month kind of time range, or is that still
Yep,
off?
absolutely. I think, with Revolution Farms, which is a hydroponic farm here in Michigan, we sell lettuce, 4 SKUs. We're in Meyer and Spartan, and most recently launched Gordon Food Service. Unfortunately, that market has dried up with restaurants shutting down. But what we've done is said, okay, how can we continue to innovate? How can we, even though our retail business is strong, our wholesale business through Gordon and Van Eerden and others has dried up with until restaurants come back online. So we have these bays where we're growing plants, and how can we use this time to test new varieties? We currently don't do any herbs, but now we're taking the opportunity to explore what could it be with basil and a few other herbs as well. So we're trying to innovate, trying to look at creating different SKUs, also doing research, understanding what the market potential would be.
So from your position in Revolution Farms, John, I think our listeners would appreciate hearing about disruptions to the food chain, maybe some innovations in the food chain. People are starting to go to grocery stores. A lot of the shelves are empty in certain cases for certain products. You see the news, people are that we're serving restaurants are throwing away some of that food or getting rid of it. Can you talk about, how you're seeing things from Revolution Farms perspective in terms of the food chain, the food supply?
Yeah, I think what we're experiencing right now is a third route to market, which is the delivery service. And I know that's been around for a while. We even have a company here in West Michigan called Organics that will deliver. We know that Amazon through Whole Foods is delivering. But from our perspective, we've been focusing on your traditional retail and wholesale routes to market. And this is really been critical for us to look at, and especially in times like these. So we're already working with Meyer through Shipt, and we've seen those sales grow. But that's certainly an area that we're continuing to explore and look at how we can pretty effectively get our product to people that aren't able to get in their cars and go to the stores right now. So that's probably been the biggest change. I think any business, you have to be ready for changes like this. I mean, and not just at Revolution Farms, but a lot of these businesses, you have to be creative and thinking about, it's a new world. Even from a food safety perspective, we have a distinct advantage growing in a greenhouse over traditional farming, but we need to make sure that our employees are safe. So wearing masks right now has been important. We have employees in different groupings, so that if we have anybody that was to get sick with COVID, they could be at home for several weeks recovering, and we can bring in a different group that will pick up the work, and we won't miss a beat. So we've definitely had to be innovative in how we protect our employees, making sure that they are safe at all times. But food in general, I think there's a greater love for locals. And we have really built our business around being local. And having the relationships not only with our customers, the big retailers and the wholesalers, but with our end customer, the people within the community. And we work with local chefs. We actually donate minimum 1% of everything we grow to Feeding America and a number of other organizations here in West Michigan. We've been supportive with a lot of other businesses and nonprofits, really trying to do our part in the community. I think that's the distinct advantage we have by being down the street. And we need to more so than ever before, when it's important to have, local farmers, local food source, be around the corner where, hey, what do you need? Your orders went up, because people are at home, they're cooking more meals. We're there for you. How can we get that product to you? How can we ultimately get it to our customer? And how can it be fresh and nutritious and at a fair price point?
So you talked about it early on, you've been through this in 08, 09, 10, where capital dried up. Are you looking at it the same way as you did back then? Or you're doing things the exact same way? Or what are the major differences that you think are between now and 08 and 09, and how you're handling those differences, and which of those differences may last or stay with us?
Well, my life during that period of time was in real estate, and if you think about that, it was probably the absolute worst thing you could be in. I was a real estate developer. The banks obviously were in a really bad position. Literally, if I felt like overnight our property values dropped by 40 to 50%. They were being marked to market. The banks were coming in requiring more cash. It was a really difficult time. Fortunately, I had some good partners and good relationships with the banks where I was able to work through that, and even flipped it on its head and had the opportunity to acquire other properties from developers that were less fortunate and buy them at very low prices and be able to turn that around and through it all, essentially build a stronger organization. I think the thing back then is I was always afraid of having those difficult conversations with bankers. And what I learned is that, hey, bankers are not your enemy. If anything, they want to help you get out of the mess that you're in. And so I've really encouraged all of the CEOs of businesses that I've been involved in to be proactive, to reach out to their bankers and talk about the situation and be 100% transparent and really work through solutions. The government this time has also played a bigger role than before, very swiftly coming in with loan programs that would be supportive, and not just in really not even a whole lot of love on the real estate side, although I think that will eventually need to come in play. But with the SBA loan programs, recognizing that they needed to move in swiftly to provide liquidity to some of these smaller businesses. We didn't have that luxury. But my advice is always to deal with the problems head on. I don't think you assume the doomsday, otherwise we'd all become really depressed and kind of wonder why we're even in business. But I think you've got to realize that it can get bad, and be smart with your cash, as I said. Talking to your lenders, look at how you might be able to delay payments. Not that those payments go away, but you could add them to the back end of the loan. You could restructure the loan and utilize the tools that the government has put forward, but deal with the issue head on. And I'd say I probably was a little bit late in doing that in 2009 because I had never experienced anything like that before, and it was scary.
Do you have other around the kind of fears or mistakes maybe you made in the past that you'd want to share with other leaders who are going through this time? Maybe not so much on the cost side or managing the economics of the business, but just on maybe a leadership side or a strategy side that you'd want to share with people that they might be up at night, nervous about, worried about, that you'd want to speak to.
Well, I think oftentimes, you think about the assets of a company, and one of your biggest assets are your people. I think it's the biggest in most businesses. And so I think being very truthful with your employees on what is happening, do not lie to them, tell them what's going on, but have a plan and show them how you're going to emerge when things get stronger. One thing I've learned over the years is especially your leadership team, they need a leader. They need somebody to step forward and say, we're going to be okay. It's going to be rocky for a while. We've been through this before. We can survive. And here's how we're going to attack the problem. And I don't want, nobody should be worried about their job at this point, especially with the SBA program that was put in place. It gives us more time. We just need to be very smart. We're going to have to make some difficult decisions, but we're all in this together. Empower your team. Ask them for their ideas. Have it be inclusive, as opposed to just being the, CEO, owner of the company that's making all the decisions. You'll find that people are actually quite resilient and good problem solvers, but you have to ask the question. You have to engage them in that process.
When you think about your own leadership through this period of time, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh boy. I guess I would say patient. I think I do believe that employees feed off of how you react to difficult situations, and I think it's absolutely critical to be calm, patient, very clear, and confident. I think that's important. I know there's a lot of descriptors there, but if you were to come into a meeting and sweating and stressed out and in a panic, what kind of a message does that send to your team? And if they go home at night and they're thinking about their future, it's common. I mean, it's natural. We all want to think about what's best for the business, but at the end of the day, when things calm down and you go home and you talk to your wife or your husband and you talk about, you're talking about your own situation. Are you going to be okay? How is this going to impact you? Are you going to have to take a reduction in your salary? Is your industry one that is going to take 3 to 5 years to recover? What about your stock? You start to ask a lot of these questions. And I think if you have a leader who is uncertain and really not stepping up, it just creates even more anxiety at home, which is not helpful.
Yeah. So can you take us into maybe the tactical? Have you changed how frequently you're communicating, how often communicating, how you're communicating? You got 3 companies, they're spread out. You've got employees here in West Michigan. Take us through some of the tactics you're using week to week, month to month right now. Are you changing?
Yeah, it's very difficult when your staff is working out of the home, right? In some cases, in others, like the farm, we have, we are an essential business. We are growing produce and selling it, so we're very active. But I have increased the level of communication. If you can meet face to face, obviously that's ideal. While we all can appreciate the value of Zoom and others, there's nothing better than being able to talk to somebody face to face and, be able to read their body language and anticipate their concerns and head off their concerns. But that's not always an option. So I think for me, it depends on the role I have. As chairman of 3 different companies, my responsibility is to work directly with the CEO. I have weekly calls as well as with the investors. And so I'm picking up the phone and talking to the larger investors and updating them on what we're doing. And then we're also communicating with letters and updates on a more frequent basis with other shareholders. And then as far as the entire employee base, most of these companies that I'm involved in, might have at most 25 employees. But it's still important to show your face or to communicate to everybody and again, provide calmness in the business. And then also empowering your CEOs. And, a lot of these are younger CEOs that frankly have never been through this before. It's a bit scary. I think they are oftentimes a bit naive in thinking that, when the coronavirus is solved, that the markets will just pop back up and we'll be right back where we were before. And I have to take them through that explanation that that's highly unlikely and we need to embrace for the worst, but we need to make sure that we're communicating to our staff and that we do have a very good plan moving forward.
Maybe one more question here, and then we'll end with some rapid fire. But you're chairman of 3 companies. You're CEO at Revolution Farms. How do you sleep? How do you do it all right now?
Yeah, it's that's what I love. I love the fast pace. I like curveballs from time to time. Not everybody's wired that way. That's why I've kind of found this sweet spot where I can bring value. I will tell you, there's a lot of things I'm really bad at. On the operational side, and I'm very fortunate to have really good partners on the executive team that can step up in their areas of discipline and do well. I learned a long time ago that the best style for me is not to micromanage. That you hire the best, you set goals, and you hold them accountable to those goals, but you let them do what they need to do. And when you're in a crisis like this, and I will say we've been very fortunate with our businesses so far, but in a situation like this, it's comforting to me to know that we have really talented people at the helm of these businesses, and that I can provide them guidance and some of my learnings, having been in this position before. But at the end of the day, I know they're going to make good decisions for the organization, which allows me to sleep at night.
It's amazing doing all that you're doing. So great insights here for our listeners. We'd love to end with some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
So one word kind of answers, about 5 or 6 of them. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Favorite leader?
This is supposed to be rapid fire, right?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Favorite leader. Boy, that's really bad. I would say Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett. They only get harder, John. Here they come. Ready?
Oh, boy.
Courage or compassion?
Courage.
Speed or accuracy?
Accuracy.
Liking or respect?
Respect.
Great ideas or great execution?
Great execution.
A word to describe your leadership style?
Passionate.
And if you had a spirit animal that really embodied and illustrated your leadership, John, what would be your spirit animal?
Really? Oh, boy.
No wrong answers.
I would say a lion.
A lion. Why a lion?
I like a lion in that they are very thoughtful. If you watch them hunt, they're very cautious, but when they make a move, and they're very confident about it.
Excellent.
Yeah, good example.
That was good. Thank you so much, John Green, for joining the podcast. Really appreciate your time.
I enjoyed it. Thank you, Derek, Doug. I appreciate you inviting me.